Welcome to our continuing YouTube video series on employment law. My name is Christopher Neufeld of Neufeld Legal. And in this particular video, we're going to be just talking to you if you're still out of work, you used to work for a large corporation, oftentimes having worked many years on an hourly basis with that company, put in a lot of hard work, and you're trying to figure out what should I be doing while I continue to look for a new job. Well, one of the things we could recommend to yourself is you should effectively revisit your pay arrangements with your prior employer. So what am I talking about here? You might have got a package, termination package, severance package, even signed some paperwork with your former employer. What is Christopher talking about? Well, there's a lot to it. The fact of the matter is that many employees, unfortunately, were underpaid when they worked for their former employer. And this pertains in particular to individuals who were employed for an extended period of time, for a very long time with the same employer. And they worked and were paid on an hourly basis. They put in lots of hard work, potentially put in a lot of overtime, rigorous conditions, got paid allowances, got paid bonuses, just overall put in a lot of time, got paid a considerable amount of money, but that money was well earned and well deserved. And the reality is, now they find themselves in a particular difficult situation. Even if they took another job just to make ends meet, they're looking at the situation saying, damn, I really should have got more money on my separation from that particular employer. What do I do? Well, what you have to do, or what you should do, is you should speak with a knowledgeable lawyer who understands the fact that employees all too often allowed themselves to be underpaid during the course of their employment. And this underpayment might have been intentional, but very likely was unintentional on the part of the employer. Nevertheless, there's money that is potentially still available to that former employee to get from their former employer. And even though you might have signed a release document, you might have received some money, you might read the paperwork and it might suggest in the black and white that you have no recourse to your former employer. That is a very questionable thing. It's a very legal aspect, to say the least. And unless you understand where we actually go with these things, and they don't always go in the way we want them to, but we have to start off by analyzing, investigating, and seeing if there is a basis to ascertain, number one, whether or not there were underpayments that are due to yourself as a former employee, and number two, if there is a legal basis upon which we can pursue and secure that money for yourself. And fortunately, the way the law is designed is that there are avenues through which we can achieve that. Because, as we said in other videos, the particulars of these situations are such that employers typically are working on the basis of business and finances, whereas the law works off of the legal system. And when you deal with the courts and when you deal with other lawyers, even though there might be aspects which make sense from a business perspective, that might make sense from a financial perspective, the fact of the matter is, if they contradict what the law says, unfortunately, at least for the employer and not necessarily for the former employee, the law supersedes and dictates what comes out of it. And for that very reason, you need to understand that getting the right lawyer involved, understanding what they are looking to pursue, allowing them to analyze, to investigate, to research, and to work off of what they already know, and to pursue those angles, there might very well be significant amounts of money that are available to yourself. Even though you think you signed away those rights, even though it's been some time since you lost your job, even though you got a termination severance package, the fact of the matter is, these are your legal rights. And you're allowed to look into them. You're allowed to have a lawyer look into them, even after you've signed off on what the employer would suggest and what their lawyer would suggest is the final paperwork. Paperwork is never final. You're never precluded from engaging with legal counsel. Of course, the employer would not want you to look further into this stuff. Of course, the employer would not want you to go to another lawyer beyond the lawyer who initially told you or suggested to you either that the package that's being offered or the limited aspects of the package that's being offered are sufficient, or that challenging that package, challenging your former employer is going to be a costly legal endeavor. It might well be. There might well be no more money there. But that is only in certain instances. The unfortunate thing is that what I've seen all too often is there are some significant mistakes, some significant errors, and some significant on the side of the employer. And from the perspective of the employee, being yourself, there do exist opportunities that are available. It just is a matter of speaking with the lawyer in confidence, talking to them, working with them, allowing them to investigate, analyze, research, providing them with the materials that they require in confidence. It is your legal right. It is always your legal right to have this reviewed. And if there is an opportunity, especially with you continuing to be out of work, to obtain money that you are rightfully entitled to, money that you are legally entitled to, why would you leave that money on the table? Why would you leave that money with your former employer when the reality is that money might well be legally entitled to you and payable to yourself? You're not going to know this unless you take the opportunity to have this researched, analyzed, investigated, and pursued. And you might not well end up pursuing it. That's your choice. But isn't it worth the peace of mind and knowledge that you have that reviewed? That way you can feel confident in your former decision, your current decision. But if there is something out there, if there are $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 or more of money that you are legally entitled to, why would you not pursue that money? Especially in this challenging time, especially if you are not having the job that you want to right now, having been terminated from your previous employer, having to take on some minimum wage job, or maybe not even having a job at all. Why are you sitting on the back step and not at least making the inquiry? Because there might be something there for you. It'll help you get through this process. It might be a half decent amount of money, and it might make you feel that much better in yourself, knowing that you worked hard for that money. We're not talking about some depraved challenge on your former employer. We're talking about money that you might well have earned and you might well be entitled to. That's all we're talking about. And if you're entitled to it and if you've earned it, why should you not have it, especially in these challenging times? So if this is something that's of interest to yourself, contact us in confidence. Let us know. We'll do the investigation. We'll advise you what our thoughts are. Somebody else might tell you something different, but we can provide you with our perspective, our analysis, and we're more than willing to provide that to yourself if the facts justify it. We understand particular jurisdictions, and in those jurisdictions we can work in it and we can assist you, and we hope to be of assistance to yourself, because it's a challenging time now for many people, especially when you put so much time in your prior employment, so many hard hours, and now you might well be struggling. That wouldn't it be a beneficial thing to get some more money out of your former employer if it is earned, if it exists? And that's all we can say, and hope for the best for yourself, and we can do our best to help you where the facts and circumstances allow us. Thank you.